yourself in Jonathan, how would you feel?
Yeah.
Pardon? How would you feel?
I said, a little ticked off.
A little ticked off. Yes, I think so. Yeah, a lot ticked off is probably more honest about it. But wait a minute, what is this? I'm the heir apparent, and somebody else is taking over the throne. I'd be a little ticked. Okay? That selfish love, that selfishness would certainly begin to bubble up inside of me and say, wait a second, this is not right. Okay? But Jonathan, fortunately, was in tune enough with God, much more than his father was, to say, this may not be right in the world's eyes, but it's what God's already chosen. And so I'm going to submit to what God has chosen to do. That's an unconditional kind of love. Now, go with me to the chart for a minute on page 85. And I know I'm skipping around today, but I'm doing that just for time because I've only got 20 minutes left before I have to get down to the ministry thing. 1 Corinthians 13. We all know 1 Corinthians 13, don't we? Somebody read the first 3 verses of 1 Corinthians 13 for me. The first 3 verses, and we want to look at verses 4 through 7. But somebody read 1 Corinthians chapter 13, the first 3 verses for me. What does Paul say in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 1 through 3? Somebody read for me. But Dave?
And now I will show you the most excellent way. If I speak in tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy, and I can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have the faith, a faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor, and surrender my body to the flames, but have not love, I gain nothing.
Okay. Now we all know that part. And we all say, I understand the importance of love. I got that. Okay? Doesn't mean it was what I do. It doesn't mean it was no matter how well I sing, how well I preach, how well I whatever. Okay? If my motive is wrong, God's keeping the books. Okay? And so as he's keeping the books to get rewards in the end time, he's keeping the books and he's going, wrong motive, wrong attitude. Doesn't count. Okay? Not recorded in the book. I go, wait a second. Wait a second. I mean, I'm preaching your word. He says, I got that. Motive's wrong. Motive's everything. Okay? Your motive's wrong. So, no matter how great a sermon you preach, no matter how many people it affected, your motive is wrong. Your motive is selfish. Your motive is you want people to think you're a great preacher. And you just preached a great message. So your motive's wrong. Therefore, in my book, as I'm keeping accounts, I don't keep that one. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't like that. How do you feel? Come on. Don't look at me and say, well, he's the only one who thinks that way. He's the poor guy, and he's the pastor. Go ahead.
It's normal to want credit for it and to be recognized for something you think you've done well.
Sure, absolutely, okay? And I think God does that. God brings people up to us and says, that was a great message. And we go, well, I'm glad God spoke to you about that. I really am, okay? Because I'm here to tell you, from a pastor's perspective, what I preach this week will be totally forgotten by next week. I'm here to tell you. I know you love the sermons here, but for the most part, if you remember them in a week, you're good. If you remember them 2 weeks, you're really good, okay? Because sometimes we don't even remember what we preached 2 weeks ago. So it isn't that it's, it's got this lasting impact. It's what God does right at that particular time, and we're glad God does those things at that particular time. But you're right. There's that motive which says, hey, God's given me the gift to sing or preach or teach or whatever it is, and I want to use that. I want people to think, well of me and so forth. So, well, sure we do. But the bottom line is, that can't be my motive for doing what I do. Okay? So the motive is, if you do that without love, then God's keeping the books and goes, well, that's not there. Okay, it's not there. We got that. But now come to the hard part of 1 Corinthians chapter 13. Question 2. The chart below shows the description of love from 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7, with each characteristic listed in the first column. In the second column, write down a recent example of this characteristic from your own life. You could note either a time in which you did display this characteristic, In other words, a time in which you were patient with your spouse, or even just a time in which you did not display the characteristic. In other words, you kept a record of wrongs by reminding your mate of a past sin while in the midst of an argument. And by the way, just let me rabbit trail here for a second. One of the things I always do in premarital counseling is to say, please do not keep trading stamps. Now, some of you are too young to have a clue about trading stamps. But there used to be companies that when you went and bought something in that company, you had a book. And they would give you so many stamps for whatever you bought. You bought $100 worth of stuff, they give you so many stamps. You licked those stamps, put them in the book. When you filled the book and you said, well, I want a lamp, and the lamp was 3 books, you took the books back in, and you traded in the books. Okay? And you got the lamp for free. Not really. You were spending all this money all along. But you got the lamp for free from the book. Sometimes we do that in our marriage. We keep a book. And in that book, we keep stamps. When you did this, when you did that, when you did this. And then when we get an argument, we bring out the book and go, see? Listen, do not keep trading stamps. Do not keep a book. When it's done and it's forgiven, it's done. There is no book of trading stamps. When it's done and forgiven, it's not dragged up in the next discussion. It's not dragged up in the next argument. And we have a great tendency to do that. But if you do, I guarantee you, you will not have a good marriage. Okay, so does it keep record of wrongs? Pick an example that helps you best understand how well you're doing at following this definition of love. Well, let's go down here, okay? And if you want to share an answer, that's fine. I'm not going to go around and say, okay, how about you? How about you? How about you? I'm not going to do that, okay? But love is patient. Okay, can you think about a situation in your marriage, perhaps over the last week, when you were patient? And your spouse never said, oh, I'm so glad you were so patient with me. And they just kind of went on. And you said, what's up with that? Or you were not patient. And because of your lack of patience, there was this tension. Okay? Anyone care to share any illustrations? You're looking, I can see you looking at your spouses going, if you do, we're not going to have the same car. I wonder how patient we are with a spouse. Okay? I wonder how patient we are. And the question becomes, I better be as patient as God is because I want to be patient with him. And if God gets impatient with me, then I'm going to be in trouble. But God is patient with me. How many times do I blow it? Time after time after time. And I come back with the same thing and say, God, blew that again. Did that same thing over again. And he goes, what thing? See, because he forgave it, so it's gone. What thing? Well, we go, yeah, that's right, man. He did it again. If we do that, we've got the trading stamps out. How patient are you, Dave?
I can't really think of, she's always patient with me. I'm gonna,
She's a saint, isn't she, Dave?
yeah, with a lot with my health situation, I wouldn't expect her to be, but it just the way we get along, and we know each other so well that, and I know she's not stressed out or frustrated about, if I don't get on a job, around the house, being retired, you're set up for a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. Your job jar is full, isn't it?
Right, there's nobody demanding your time unless you give it to somebody, commit to somebody else.
Right.
But I have that assurance, and I think it's healthy for me to know that she has patience with me.
Right.
And it's actually motivating to...
It is, for you to be patient with her. Right. It absolutely is. What we do motivates the other person to be the same way. Okay? Consequently, if we're impatient, it motivates the other person in the same way.
That's my biggest problem. I'm not patient in anything that I do. I can say, well, why did you do that? Whether it's her, I want her to be more loving to me, or dishes, or whatever it is. And if I would have been more patient, even it starts with the kids even too. If I would have just waited and been patient and just shut my mouth, it would have been a lot better off. But patience is...
It's hard for all of us.
It's really hard for me.
Yeah. I think it's hard for all of us. Okay? And it, to some degree, it relates to your personality. If you are a phlegmatic personality is the person who's totally laid back. You say, where do you want to go to eat? Oh, I don't care. Well, what do you want? I don't